Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I'm your host, the voice of reason. Well, in today's update of the ongoing civil war that is taking place inside of Ethiopia, there continues to be a very strong push by the Tigrayan Defense Forces, primarily directed along what we would define as the Southern Central Front. And again, there is a large formation of Tigrayan defense forces that have obviously seized control of the town of Weldia and have continued to push south, seizing control of the town of Mersa. And there sounds like there is heavy fighting taking place in the vicinity of Wakali. And that would indicate that the TDF continues to push south towards the goal of possibly seizing control of both Dese and Kombolcha. And obviously there is an airstrip located at Kombolcha. Now, the ability to service aircraft in terms of fast-moving fighter jets, with the exception of possibly helicopters, is very limited. So there's very limited infrastructure at this airbase to facilitate the use of a high-performance fixed-wing fighter aircraft. But nevertheless, it would be the seizure of an additional airbase, and obviously there is an industrial park to the west of that target as well. But again, the TDF continues to push south, and we would define this as the Dese Kombolcha Gap. Obviously, there is mountain ranges or very large terrain features on either side of this valley as you head down through Mersa, Wakale, and then as you approach the large terrain features that set in front of Dese. But we are also receiving reports that the Tigrayan Defense Forces again have started to actively use more heavy equipment. So we are seeing the Tigrayan Defense Forces use Delta 30 artillery pieces, field guns, 122 millimeters. We are seeing the use of armored fighting vehicles and armored personnel carriers now being deployed by the Tigrayan Defense Forces. We're seeing more and more motorization come into effect, where again the initial stages of the conflict were in central Tigray, and obviously we were seeing a lot of footborne infantry movements. Now, with the acquisition of major towns, cities, and bases, former bases that were being utilized by the Ethiopian army, we're now seeing the Tigray Defense Forces become better prepared and stocked with an array of military equipment that we are now seeing being actively used now against what is essentially Amhara militia units as the TDF continue to press south towards Dese. Again, the Ethiopian army is just in really bad shape at this point, and would seem that some of its better units have fled and are now holed up in Addis Ababa or around Addis Ababa. We can report, obviously, the Ethiopian Air Force, with its limited capabilities, are continuing to launch intermittent airstrikes against targets, which would now be inside of the Amhara region, against possible targets of the Tigrayan Defense Forces. And what I wanted to do is just real quick show you some of the capabilities of the Ethiopian Air Force. And again, we're probably looking at the most maybe a half a dozen Su-27s and maybe some MiG-27s that are serviceable. So we'll look at their main air base, which is over here, and we'll zoom in, and you can clearly see all the assets, the the Ethiopian Air Force has at its disposal. So you can see helicopters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 helicopters. You can see, obviously, these are Su-27s. And you can see 4 there. You can see 5, 6, 7. And you can also see these are, I believe those are lead-in training aircraft. They're not MiG-27s. And then, but that's really it. You can see the C-130 that is there, possibly the one that was shot down earlier. And you can see some of its transport capabilities as well. But again, this is the largest base that they have. So the Air Force is not huge, 5,000 personnel in total. And again, probably I would say no more than a dozen capable flight-ready aircraft, if it even is a dozen at this point. You can see here the MiG-27s on the more southern tarmac, and you can see aircraft. These aircraft here, probably older MiG-21s that are no longer in service. So that is the primary air base that is east of Addis Ababa, and then the next air base that is actively normally used is over here, and this is near Bahir Dar. And you can see as well, again, it does have some infrastructure, obviously not a lot compared to the air base southeast of Addis, but you can see here at when this picture was taken, there was 2 Su-27s on the tarmac, and it looks like 1, 2, 3 MiG-27s that are MiG-27 or MiG-23s that are present on the airfield. But again, limited infrastructure, and the Air Force is simply not that big, and then compounding that is its ability or its inability to deliver precision guided ordnance. Most of these MiG-21s and other aircraft are going to be dropping what you would call dumb bombs, possibly cluster munitions on target. So relatively inaccurate depending on the skill sets of the pilots and the air time that the pilot has in the air, the flight time the pilot has, the ability to train and practice dropping bombs on targets, and just given the limited monetary aspect of the Ethiopian Air Force. I mean, the entire defense budget of the Ethiopian military is around $600 million, I believe. Yes, $600 million, not billions. It's in the hundreds of millions. So very, very limited resources in terms of being able to spend money on fuel, training, and obviously repairing the aircraft. So the Ethiopian Air Force is just something that is really not to be feared, so to speak. But you know, it can utilize some of its other aircraft as well to drop bombs and possible barrel bombs, like we've seen in the use of the Syrian civil war as well. Now, we haven't seen that as yet. Could we see that? Possibly. We'll see how the conflict continues. But right now, the heaviest fighting continues to be south and in the vicinity south of Weldia, as the TDF continues to press south. And then we've also started to receive reports that the Tigrayan Defense Forces have pushed west past Gashina, have engaged forces of the Amhara militia units around Debre Zabet. That continues. And then we are hearing reports that units of the Tigrayan Defense Forces have actually entered and are in the process of taking control of Nefes Micha. And that is an ongoing operation. And again, we can confirm that elements of the Tigrayan Defense Forces have entered Nefes. And that will probably sort itself out in the coming days without a major counter operation by the Amhara militia. And I'll say that as the Amhara militia because it would really appear at this point the Ethiopian army is really in disarray at this point. And much of the resistance that is being provided by what you would define as either the Amhara region or the Ethiopian state would be from these militia units of the Amhara militia. Again, the Ethiopian army is just really in disrepair right now from its campaign inside the Tigray region and trying to reconstitute itself. And from the intelligence that I've been able to obtain, that is not going well. There are significant issues inside of the Ethiopian military. The Ethiopian army is not one that was trained and prepared for a general mobilization, the like of which is now being requested. All that is really happening in terms of this mobilization is the call for mobilization, but the infrastructure and the processes to actually mobilize and train a army is really lacking at this point. Many of its best units were destroyed, and many of its lower ranking leadership members of the army were taken prisoner or KIA or wounded in action in the Tigray region. And it's just been really a tough road on the Ethiopian army in terms of being able to do some of the things that is being asked of it now. So my best guess or analysis would be that that the Ethiopian army will not be in a state where it can conduct large-scale offensive operations in excess of at least a minimum of 6 months. More likely a year, if not longer, to really be able to have some of the same capabilities that that existed prior to 2021, and what I mean by kind of late 2020. Many of those capabilities have been reduced. Now we do continue to hear about the employment of possible drones, and we've heard about the possible employment of drones from Iran being purchased. But again, drones, it's much bigger than just simply saying they have a drone. They have to have the capabilities to deliver ordnance. They have to have trained personnel who can operate these systems. These systems have to be tested, and they have to have good data links. If they don't have good data links, they're simply really worthless. And then compounding that again is being able to deliver precision guided munitions, and we're not seeing that on a wide scale. And we don't even frankly know if that capability even exists. So the drone issue continues to raise its head, but as of yet, outside of the initial stages of the conflict where they were being possibly deployed by the United Arab Emirates or some other faction, we're just not seeing the use of those high quality drones in this stage of the conflict. But again, right now we're looking at the TDF pressing towards Debre Tabor and on to the junction that would lead to Gondar and Bahir Dar. As they press west, they will be getting closer and closer to the operational range of the airbase at Bahir Dar, and obviously I would suspect there are some functioning aircraft now stationed at this airbase that could deliver munitions, but again, no precision guided munitions, no real ability to attack targets at night, or anything of the such. So, but we will continue to keep an eye on that aspect of the conflict as well. But that's it for now, and we will definitely continue to report and debrief as events were. And I was able to locate Abiy Ahmed, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia's possible new home that we are hearing he could be looking to purchase somewhere in the vicinity of the UAE, and we will be conducting a video on that on that real estate search fairly soon. Have a great day, everybody.